Hello and welcome to Trying Times. My name is Carmen and I am so excited that you're here. If it's your first time listening, then welcome. We're basically friends now. But if you've listened to the show before and you're returning, then welcome back, friend. I have such an exciting episode here today. So, yeah, I can't wait to get into that. I've always kind of thought of the show as a conversation of all sorts, but more than anything, I've thought of the show as a phone call with a friend and sort of like this catch-up call type of conversation where I talk about all kinds of things, and a lot of those things may include some embarrassing moments, otherwise known as trying times. Full circle here, guys. Okay, I'm done with that now. But today's episode is super special because it is my first time having a guest on the show, and you'll be meeting her very, very soon. But right before I get into that conversation, I just want to let you guys know that there is a fun feature where you can be involved in the show. So basically what you get to do is leave me a voice message if you want to be featured in an episode, and we could talk about anything. You could mention something from past episodes, or even this episode, or ask me a question about literally anything. I'd love to have more conversations, so if you want to do that and you want to be featured in an upcoming episode, then go ahead and click on the link in the episode description and hit record. I hope to hear from you soon. But in the meantime, let's get into this great conversation. Okay, so one of the first ever guests that I've had on this show is Nika Thompson. Before I let her talk, I'm just going to go ahead and say we've known each other for a very long time. Longer than I think longer than both of us realized, but we met 5 years ago, I believe.
I
And
think so.
yeah, I'm going to let you get a little bit into that as well so you can chat. But welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
Yeah, I'm
It's so
excited.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fun. We're both just like, yeah, yay.
We meet at a Brockhampton concert. I tell
Yeah.
everybody that whenever I'm talking about you, I'm like, yeah, I met Carmen at a Brockhampton show in line. I was waiting for my other friend who
Yep.
was late. But Carmen and her friends and her group of people she was interacting with at the time, um, welcomed me with open arms. And then after that, we kept in touch through like Twitter and like
Yeah.
Instagram and stuff. And then we finally like exchanged numbers and just started going to a bunch of shows together. And then eventually concert buddies turned into like actual mates and hanging out and stuff and doing things. So
It was so cool. I mean, like,
when was
it's,
that anyways?
I think it was like 2017 because I remember being in my final year of university and being excited because like I was stressed with my final year, but being like, oh my God, I'm going to see Brockhampton live for the first time. But I remember waiting in line with my friend and
Yeah,
I had talked.
2017. Sorry, I like
Yeah.
Googled it real quick.
No, it's all
Wow.
good. It's crazy that it was that long ago.
Last month says the 17th of September
Yeah.
around
That
there.
was like our anniversary.
Yes. Our friend anniversary.
Oh my God, it's so crazy. But yeah, I remember like talking with so many people on Twitter and on Instagram. But at the time, I think Twitter was really like the big thing.
No, yeah, I was on
Yeah.
Twitter for a minute. I don't know what's Twitter saying right now because I don't use it, but
Yeah,
I know
no,
Twitter is always a
same.
fun time.
No, it is. I mean, like I remember connecting with all these cool people on there and then it was a whole different world like when I got to the show, like I was waiting in line early as were you, and there were so many like different people
So
waiting in
many
line. Like
different
it was a
people.
huge line, I remember.
Yeah.
And that was like my first initial meeting with a lot of people that I talked to on Twitter. And you and I just kind of met by chance. I remember in line, we were like, oh my God, we're the only two people here that aren't like 17 years
Yeah,
old.
we're old
Yeah. So, I mean, we just had that
at a time
realization
which
again.
isn't even that old. I
No,
don't even think
no.
so. Yeah,
We
we're
were
just
like,
older than a lot of the peers who are in line.
yeah, I think we were like 20-ish
Yeah, I want
opposed
to
to
say
now.
20. Yeah, yeah. We're
Um,
grown.
we
Come on
had like
now.
a full circle moment though last week because we went to see Jack Harlow and in the crowd we were kind of like, oh, I think we're too old to
We're
be
too
here.
old for this stuff now. We didn't
Yeah.
care. We're just like, we got there, we're like, we'll get there when it starts. I remember being like, for shows, like, I have to get there before at this time, like
Yes.
11 in the morning to like line
Yeah.
up for something at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night.
Spend
And
the
it
whole
just felt
day.
like not even 2 hours of a show,
You know?
less than that. You don't, sometimes you don't even like end up meeting the artist or whatever because you're so tired or whatever to like you're
Yeah.
so tired and then you go home and then I mean I guess it's like a part of the the culture we were
experience.
in, yeah,
Yeah,
at the time.
definitely. It definitely was this huge like wave of like major fan culture where I remember we would spend days out there. It was, I think, at a point like we would, because we always just kind of like meet up earlier in the day and would hang out. And
Hmm.
this is like, I think what kind of developed our friendship even more from
Yeah.
being like concert buddies to like, no way, actual friends, which like you can be both or one or the other. Like, I don't want anyone to be like, you can't be like friends if you're just concert buddies, but
No,
we
you could be
definitely
both.
got to, yeah, we got to know each other better over time because we'd spend like the day leading up to the show together. And
Hmm.
and I remember for Jack, we were both just like tired and it had been cold, like we were just over it. So we got there when the show started pretty much and we're like, all
Yeah,
right.
I was also late, so
That's
the
okay.
TTC was a whole mess.
Oh, transit
Gosh,
in general,
always a mess. I don't know where all the money is going. That's another
honestly.
subject for another
A
day.
whole other conversation. We could revisit that later, truly. What we're talking about today is your career path and basically your creative side, which I do think is like so much of who you are as a person. And I remember that being kind of one of the first things that I learned about you when we became friends was your interest in photography, your passion for it, and also a lot of the things that you pull inspiration from. So clearly, I mean, if you haven't gotten this already, this whole episode is going to be about photography. And I thought to interview Nika because, well, why wouldn't I? I've known her for so long. And this is something that we've like kind of, have we kind of worked on this together ever? I mean, you've always kind of taken just like candid shots before, but
Of like you,
yeah,
whereas I think it's just like snapshots of you. I've never
yeah.
until
Oh,
what
and
was it, a
your
month
project.
ago?
Yes.
A month ago, I took actual portraits of you,
Yeah.
which was cool. Yeah,
Same.
it was fun.
I was going to say that was the first time I like
Yeah,
was
that's the
thinking about
first
it.
time. Yeah.
I'm very like selective with having photos taken of me, I think. And I
I
talked
mean,
to you
who
about that.
wouldn't?
Yeah.
Because it's literally how the person is seeing you. It's like their eye. You're technically you are kind of representing yourself, but not really because someone else is putting their perceptions of you and kind
That's
of
fair.
themselves and translating that onto film or to me, I'm gonna say film because like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, but
Well, no,
whatever you're
that's what I wanted to talk with you a lot about today was more so the world of film photography because that is something that you specialize in and I feel like it's something that is an art form that's kind of been growing for a long time, but it is still very rare to come across that or come across like an artist who works mainly in that medium. So I guess like first kind of question I have for you is what inspired you to get into photography and I guess more so even like kind of take on that art of film photography.
okay. I kind of split it up into both because first, like, how did I get into it? I think it's something that was always around me, but I didn't notice it was around me until I had to like figure out what I wanted to go to school for because my parents
Mm-hmm.
were very like, you're going to university, after your high school, that's what we want you to do. And they're
Mm-hmm.
paying for my schooling. I'm a school kind of girl, so I'm like, okay, I'm down for it. And so I had to figure out what to do. And I wanted to do like graphic design. And then I like, when you're trying to figure out the requirements and stuff,
Oh my
you
God, yes.
realize that I needed like calculus or some sort of math.
Oh,
I don't want anything related to math. I don't like numbers, okay? Although
same.
there's numbers in photo, that's the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. Or money, but nothing else.
Yeah, the mandatory things.
The mandatory things, nothing else. I don't do math. I don't like it at all. Anyways, so I was like, I can't do that because I don't have the requirements for that. So, and all the math I was taking in school wasn't college math because I wasn't good at it. So it was what applied math or whatever. So I was talking to other people and they were like, you should like look up like this school OCAT. That's where I went to. That's where I graduated from.
Woo.
And I like I know we finished. Finished. That's a big win.
That's a
What
huge
and
accomplishment.
yeah, don't let anyone tell you different. Whoever's in school and you're going through it, like that's and you finish it or you finish any program that you're doing, it's a win. Probably
Absolutely.
harder to get work afterwards, but the process of school is like a different thing that high school doesn't technically get you ready for. It's a different world.
No, not at all. I mean, they
So,
prepare you to like at the very least learn how to take very vague notes, but then you
yeah,
get to university or college and you're like, "Oh
it's
my God."
different. It goes so
Yeah.
fast and it's like a different type of workload.
Hmm.
Anyways, this is me and Carmen, man. We just go off to different
We
tangents all
go
the
on to
time
different tangents, like from one thing
to another
often.
thing. And then we
Yeah.
remember what we're talking about. We're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Full circle, full circle.
full circle. Here we go. Here it is. Someone was like, you should look at OCAD. I did. And then I was like looking at programs. I'm like, oh, maybe I should try photo. And I did that. And then I like, not recently, but maybe I want to say during like the pandemic, my mom and I were having a conversation, and she was like, you know, you've been taking photos from like a jit, like you're like, whenever we would go somewhere, she'll give me like the camera, like the family
Hmm.
camera, which I still have, and I did produce work on it during school, which is also pretty cool.
That's so
Um,
cool.
but was always like, you took this picture, you did this, you're the only one who knew how to use a camera. So I guess it was always ingrained in me, and I didn't realize it until I started like kind of figuring out what I had to do. And then from there, you start developing your eye and things like that. That's how I that's
Awesome.
how I got into it. And after I got into it, I just fell in love with it and kind of stuck it out.
No,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I mean, I didn't
It's
even know the
probably
thing
the
about the camera.
yeah,
Like,
it's probably the one thing that's been like super consistent. I like
mhm.
hobby wise or whatever I'm into, photo has been like even I'm like into movies and stuff. And
Yeah,
I think when I
absolutely.
was younger, I was like, yeah, I want to make movies. I think it's because I saw Sharkboy Lava Girl, and then I learned like his kids wrote the story, and I was like, yeah, I can write scripts.
I mean, fair enough. Great movie, honestly.
I love that
Like,
movie. Sorry,
no, I
like
love
Disney
that, but
songs go so hard.
it's true. Like that's, I mean,
Yeah,
that's where you kind of start pulling inspiration from, like when you're younger, and it's always like those things that you'll either see or hear or read, whatever it may be,
yeah. You
like
don't
just
know
different forms of art.
it comes back to you in such a different way. You don't know
Hmm.
that it's kind of been in the background of your life for a while. But yes, that's how I got into photo.
That's so cool. So for you, have you always been into a similar style of shooting that you are now? Actually, give a little bit background of like
Yeah, I was
what
gonna
style
say
you
what
do.
kind of context, like for the listeners out there. Ha.
Yeah.
Always wanted to say that.
Check out her Instagram. I will be linking that in the episode description, but still, go off.
I shoot a lot of portraits and like kind of editorial based work. Um, I when I was first starting out, I feel like this is for not everybody, but for me or like a lot of people I was surrounding myself at the time, we all wanted to be fashion photographers.
Hmm.
And like a side note, I don't know if anyone else who's listening is very into the arts or whatever, but editorials are don't hit like they used to anymore.
Mm.
So what I'm talking about editorials is like when you're like looking through a magazine, it's like a cover story on someone or like a little article of somebody and there's like a giant big photo of them that's like
Hmm.
tastefully done, like a pretty portrait or whatever. Not
Yeah.
like your family portraits or things like that. There's different levels, but
Yeah.
they don't hit like they used to. And if you there's a bunch of like archive accounts online and they show like all the really cool things that people were doing in the 90s. But that's because photographers back then were putting their own kind of money and self-funding these things and going broke because they lived for the art. But that's kind of dying down now
Oh,
to a
okay.
lot of like your
Mm.
white backdrops and then people just styled in expensive clothes kind of thing.
Like super curated.
Yeah, I don't have an example off the top of my head right now, but yeah, that's a thing.
No,
Um,
that does seem like, I mean, from things online, because that's a huge thing now that's
yeah,
like added into the mix of like what I guess editorial would be too.
yeah, like this morning I was just reading because I wanted an essence and I looked at this article with Chloe Shebney. How you say her name? Shebney?
I
I don't
have
know how to
no
say her
idea how to
name.
say her last name, but I know who you're
But you know
talking
what you're talking about. She's so
about. Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Anyways, she's a queen. But that editorial was just all like just shot on like white and she's just styled in expensive clothes and playing with a little toy car. Not
Oh.
like there's some nice photos of the person because she's a well-known face,
Hmm.
she has that essence essence. But but like I'm just like they could have done more. I don't know. A lot of things are going to that. That's another tangent that I went on. But yeah, I shoot a lot of editorial and portraits and stuff and projects called Girls. I don't know if that's going to be the final title, but it's basically a project about one's identity, coming into yourself, and the exploration about photographer and subject, which kind of touches back what we were talking about earlier with how the person photographing you sees you, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Because I feel like even throughout the project so far, I've put a little bit of me into all the
Into everything.
photos. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's and I'm learning about myself, like with the conversations with the women I'm having. Like there's so much that goes into it. But right now,
Absolutely.
doing a lot of portraiture.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I wanted to say, first of all, it was so cool to get to be part of it. So thank you for having me to be part of
Thank
Girls.
you for wanting to be a part of it, my friends.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are one of the few people that I've talked to you about this. I've talked to my friend Victoria about this. I've talked to a
Shout
couple
out
other friends about this.
Victoria.
I'm very like, I think a lot of people, like you said, it is kind of awkward to be in front of a camera. Sometimes you
Even
do
for
have to
me, it
have,
is.
yeah, like you have to have that trust in the person behind the camera and trust that they are obviously someone you're comfortable with and you're okay to like have them have their own spin, I guess, on like
And
the image.
I
And
sorry not to
no, go
interrupt,
ahead.
but I think like even for a photographer, you have to be really good with people. I think you have to
Absolutely.
learn about somebody. I think maybe in any creative space, in less than like 10 minutes, like 5 minutes, you have to like figure, like create a bond with them or some sort of thing. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
it is super quick, but it does, I think, like weirdly enough, I mean, it improves the work, but also just that process of creating that work too. It makes it more enjoyable for both parties or
Mhm.
whoever's part of whatever project. So I definitely understand where you're coming from with that. It's a really good
Yeah.
point. But yeah, no, I mean, like even when Nika took those photos of me, which
I
like
also
I
don't
was,
know what they look like right now.
yeah, because again, all film. So
They're still waiting to be
that's
developed. Hopefully next week I can start developing. It's my
no,
or this
that's
week
such
I
a
think
cool process though, because I
I'm trying
mean,
to.
it's do you find in some way that that makes you trust yourself even more with your work and your vision that you can't see those photos instantly? Like you have to wait for them to be developed?
A little bit of yes and no, because
Yeah,
like sometimes like a mistake could be a good thing, and sometimes a mistake could be a bad thing. Like you never know what you're getting.
true, true.
But I guess it does like you do have to believe in yourself heavy, like
Yeah.
to be like, I know what I'm doing, and and then yeah, you don't feel like an imposter.
No, I mean, that's a huge thing. And like imposter syndrome is a big thing we talk about here. But no, I think that's so cool. And even like you kind of showing me the behind the scenes of other photos you'd taken of other participants for that project. It was so interesting to see how all of them were so different, but there was
Everyone's so
still
different.
that consistency almost of that
A
lens.
little bit of me in there, I'm
Yes,
telling you. That's
exactly.
what it, and you don't notice that kind of thing. I guess for me, if I wasn't a shooting as much as I did in school or
Hmm.
tried to stay shooting,
Hmm.
you kind of fall out of touch with that. So you kind of have to, in whatever you're doing, keep going because when
Yeah.
you first start, we're all like pretty shitty.
No, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's like the best way to put it. And I've talked about that before on the show where the best way you can kind of learn anything is just by doing.
Mhm.
Because,
Stay
I mean,
consistent. And this is what I was
yeah,
saying. This is probably the one things that I haven't like dropped. I've been kind of very consistent with it
yeah.
throughout
And
the
through that, I mean, you've been
X
able
amount
to
of
learn so
years.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so cool. Okay, so now we'll get a little bit into imposter syndrome. Since I love talking about that for myself. I think it exists in so many different realms, but I want to ask if there's ever been a moment of like overwhelmingness for you where you have felt that like maybe a strong level of imposter syndrome or anything kind of similar to that regardless of like career. That doesn't have to be just with your photography, it could be kind of with anything in the media sphere or just life. Like
Right.
how is that? Is that something you've ever dealt with?
Whenever I like I mean, yes, it is something I've dealt with.
Mhm.
Whenever if I get offered like a job or something, or like someone's like, hey, are you down to like take pictures of me? Even if it's like I'm not getting paid for it, it's just somebody being like, hey, are you down to do creative? Hey, are you interested in doing this? I'm like, wow, somebody's acknowledging me, not knocking that anyone shouldn't, because I do think I'm okay at what I do. I'm pretty good.
I would
um,
say you are definitely pretty good, but
that's
okay.
something I'm trying to practice myself. But anyways,
Course.
like just somebody being like, "Hey, I want you for this job." It makes me
Hmm.
realize like, "Oh wow, like I'm actually doing this or like this is a part of my life."
Hmm.
Or like when I'm like on set and like because I'm also a photo assistant and we're shooting like a bigger thing and I'm like, "Wow, that way I feel very overwhelmed." Or like
Hmm.
when I'm preparing for shoots or just little things like that that I feel like an imposter.
Interesting. So would you say those moments kind of like
They're
being offered
surreal.
or yeah,
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 they're
like does
surreal.
that
Where I'm
serve almost as like affirmation in a way?
Sometimes yes, and then sometimes I like what I get myself into. But yes.
You know what though? I think sometimes if you don't have those moments in the background, it's kind of just like, what am I doing here? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's where I feel like an imposter. But I shouldn't, because then that's like, like your own thoughts going.
No, absolutely. But no, that's
How
great.
how about you? I feel like asking you about that. Like, how do you feel? Because I know, like, for like example, you did that whole like big film thing with
Mhm.
a movie I actually really enjoyed. I only watched it because I was looking for your name at the end, and I heard so much about it. But
Thank you. Thank you so much for the support.
but I feel like doing like something big like that will give me like that. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, or like the feeling.
Is it like
Like it's I feel like for me, like surreal moments is where I
yes.
feel like that imposter syndrome kind of thing.
Oh, so you're saying for you in that kind of a capacity, I guess that it would be like overwhelming imposter syndrome instead of feeling like, holy crap, I did that, or like a bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both. A little bit
Yeah.
of both. I don't feel that like, oh my gosh, I did that until like it's finished and I'm
Yeah.
done with the project, or I'm seeing it in my hand or seeing it on a wall or whatever.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and thank you for asking me on my take on that, but I do think the entirety of that experience, I've talked about it very vaguely on this show, but I did work on a film for about 5 months as like a producer's assistant slash like production assistant. And so there was that.
You put sound effects. You
Yeah,
gotta put a
boop,
sound
boop,
effects
boop,
here.
boop, boop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, put some stuff in. But yeah, that was a very surreal experience to say. Like whenever someone asks me about that now, the only word I kind of say is surreal because
But like when you were doing the job, when you're like
yeah.
on set, like
Mhm.
you do you feel like, do I really belong here? Or like,
Absolutely. Yeah,
and
no.
that's how I like take imposter syndrome.
Yeah, no,
That kind of
I
that's how
was
I would.
I remember showing up sometimes like sometimes I'd feel it for hours in a day or maybe an hour. Sometimes I'd feel it for days on end where I'd pop up and obviously I'm new to a lot of what's going on and new to everything really. Like it was my first exposure to that and how lucky was I to be able to do that for the first time on such a
Yeah.
big production, but that also played into the whole imposter syndrome I think where I was just like damn, like I have no idea what I'm doing here
Mm.
and do I even belong here? And then I had to really turn a lot of that into yeah, I'm here for a reason. I
Yeah,
was chosen to be
that's
here for a reason, so that's the deal.
that's
And
why
like
I always say
yeah,
it's kind of like both,
yeah,
because
you have to like shut the voice up a little bit, but
yeah,
it's like getting
for
to that
me it's
process
both.
is hard.
For me
Yes.
it's not just like the one thing,
Yeah.
because on one side you're like, yeah, I did that, I killed it, I'm doing whatever I wanted to do.
Yep.
And then on the other hand you're like, oh wow, because there's so many other people, especially in creative things, there's so many other
Mm-hmm.
people doing the exactly same thing as you, taking maybe the exact same pictures of somebody,
Yep.
in the same kind of style or whatever, but you
Mm-hmm.
just gotta.
You have to continue to push,
I
like you
for, I
said, the
forget that
consistency.
I forget that people cannot see what I'm doing, but I'm doing a pushing motion,
She's
guys.
doing a pushing forward motion. Just keep going, okay? That's the metaphor. Just keep
Keep going.
moving forward. As long as you move forward, you're good. No, but I think that is really important, like you said. And like you said in the beginning, consistency. Because
A good hype song is Reborn by Kids See Ghosts. So just listen to that. And
there you
that's
go.
basically my message.
There you go. She's giving you music recommendations now too. Listen to that every morning and you'll feel better.
It's sad, but you will feel better.
No, but I mean that's a huge thing. So I feel like from there, do you feel like that's how you felt versus like when you started out in photography versus now? Do you feel like you've kind of been able to maybe fight off a little bit of that imposter syndrome? Not obviously not all of it because I know that's hard, but do you feel like you've been able to kind of like push it back a
Now,
little bit more?
yeah, now I guess because I've had a little bit more experience, like kind
Hmm.
of dabbling in everything from like
Yeah.
events to like actual portraits and little things like that. Like
Hmm.
I can see where my strengths lie, and having like other people, like just working on this project, my girls project, just seeing how many people want to be a part of it, and people who are like, there's like strangers that I don't know who really support my work. So I think that's something that's giving me like good
Oh my
reassurance.
gosh,
Like
that's amazing.
I always hear it from like my mom and my sister and my dad, and like they
Hmm.
always cheer me on, and you always cheer me on, like people who
Always.
are in my circle.
Yeah.
But it's like so surreal to see like I'm contacting like mutuals I've never spoken to before on Instagram.
Mhm.
I just like their pictures, don't even comment or anything. But now I'm actually going in their DMs and conversing with them, getting to know these people. And
Yeah,
they're like, I've been like, I love your work. You've been like, I've followed you for so long. And it's like,
that's
I
so
like just
cool.
very kind words. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I think that's like another surreal moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, this person appreciates my work. I
I
don't know where
mean,
it's gonna
that's
take me, but
yeah.
like, yeah.
But no, I think that's so cool because you're doing kind of like one of the things that I think a lot of people dream of doing. Like your work is actually creating conversation and making
Oh, you
connections.
think so? See, even this, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, you're like, wow, I never thought. No, but I mean, even that sort of motion of you being able to connect with people that you may have followed for a while, or they may have followed you, or vice versa, or both. I
I
think
don't
that's
know
a
if
huge
it's
thing.
I don't know if it's the cancer in me. It's probably the cancer in me. I'm
Yeah,
gonna bring up astrology. I
go
always do.
for it. You go
I
for.
don't
I
know.
know. I learn a
I
lot
don't
about it
know.
from you.
For me, I learned about it from other people. I just know
Yeah.
like the big three, and it's a good conversation thing, and then that's it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're at a place where I asked a friend this actually the other week because she's kind of on the same wavelength that I am with horoscopes and like astrology, where like we know of the signs, we know of some general traits of each sign, but can you meet someone and be like, I can tell that they must be this or they might be this? No? Okay.
Nah, that's my sister. My sister has a good judgment.
Actually, I remember one of the first times I met your sister.
Again, shout out to Nisha. I
Yes, shout out to
always bring her
Tanisha.
up. Although I
No,
said that
she's
like
so
two
cool.
minutes ago. She's the coolest person I know. I
She's
always
so
say this.
cool. And I consistently forget that she is younger than us
I'm
because
hyping her up.
so mature.
Whenever she listens to this, she'll hear this and she can put this little clip
She will.
on her
She will
story.
hear this. Tanisha,
It's
hi, we love you.
we love
No,
you
but I
too.
do remember one of the first times I met her, actually, she met me and she met my friend Victoria. And she was like, wait, let me guess what sign you are for both of us. And she guessed it. And I was like,
Did she really do that?
whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember for Victoria specifically, she was like, are you a Scorpio? Victoria was like, what just happened? Like, how did she know
No,
that?
my sister's good with that stuff.
Cool.
But I don't
Yeah.
know if that's she maybe she just knows like the traits very well. I don't
Mm.
know. Or
No,
she
but
just has
I
good
mean,
sense of judgment or
yeah,
character.
just good
She's good at reading
awareness, good
people. Yeah.
judgment. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that has a huge thing to do with it too. I do have another good friend from university who is super into it. She reads up on that stuff. So let's get back into this. We took a little bit of
Yeah.
a break. I'm like, wait, are we recording? Okay, we
We
took a
took a
little bit of a
commercial break.
break. Yeah, commercial break, intermission. Back to this. I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. We were talking about imposter syndrome
For a
and
minute, yeah.
all of that fun that comes with working in any sort of like a field, really, but especially I feel in creative industries because I feel like it can easily be considered oversaturated with a lot of things. Obviously, like you said earlier, there are a lot of people doing things that sometimes feel similar to what other people are doing.
Hmm.
And that can also feel intimidating at times. But obviously, there are things that inspire everyone that are different from what might inspire someone else. So it's always like differing in varying ways. But I wanted to ask for you specifically, what kind of advice would you offer to someone looking to branch into photography and maybe even like specifically film photography?
I know it's so corny and I think everybody says it, but just go for it. Just do it because if you don't know, if you don't try, you won't know.
100%.
And like literally just get like a point and shoot. It doesn't need to be a fancy serious camera.
Mm-hmm.
You could just get like a normal point and shoot and then start from that. And then once you feel like you leveled up, you can get a like an SLR, which lets you do more manual things. And
Mm-hmm.
or you can just start with the SLR, which is how I got into it. Like literally, I wasn't shooting film when I first started. I took a class like
Mm-hmm.
intro to black and white film. And ever since then, I was like, oh, this is so fun. And I just kept going from there. So
That's
even for
cool.
me, it's very like not a random thing, but it just never was a thought. So I just say
Mm-hmm.
like, try it and see. Like that's why I even gave my sister a camera. I was like, just shoot. Or like when she was in high school, like stuck a roll of film in one. I was like, just take it. You never know what you could get.
That's
So fun.
cool.
So
Yeah.
just like go for it. It might spark something that you're really interested in. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing. And if you
That's
want to be
cool.
like more precise with it, just start taking pictures of your friends. Just like go with them in a park and like actually sit them down and try to make nice pictures.
Yeah.
A
No,
nice
that's
picture
cool.
looks different to everybody. So however you want a nice picture to look like, just go for it. Because I think so many people have said that before, but I
Yep.
think that's the truth. Just to go for it and see what will happen. I think fear is what holds people back the most, even me sometimes.
Yeah.
Fear is the mind killer. Shout out Dune.
Another inspiration though.
Yeah, no, but that's a fact. Like fear is the mind killer. Like it's killing you, like killing your thoughts and what
Mhm.
you can actually do. So if you just
Absolutely.
try to ignore the fear sometimes, you can be good. You never know.
I think even with that, I mean, like you said, it kills obviously a lot of that action you could put into place, kind of like you
Hmm.
said. But also sometimes I feel like if you kind of sit stagnant enough or let it kind of keep going, it kind of starts to alter your ideas in a way too, because it's like you allow that judgment to creep in so much that it might even like just make your ideas kind of come to a bit of a halt or like hit a creative block, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting. But I love that. I mean, I love that advice because I think, like you said, sure, it could sound potentially cliche. I don't think it does because, again, I think the best way to learn is by doing.
And
And
just
so
like I
that's
remember
great.
talking to you, we're like in Kensington Market, and you're like, I don't think I ever told you, but I think I'm gonna like start a podcast. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, do it, do it. This is when Carm
Yeah.
was living in Toronto. And I was
Yes.
like, do it, do it, do it. Because I was like, you have such a great voice. Your voice is very like
Oh,
podcasty. Like,
thank
and then
you.
yeah, I was like, just go for it. And you're like, I don't know. I'm also not a podcast person, sorry.
It's
For me
okay.
to be this is my second podcast I've been on. The first one, I think they just like left like a little sentence of something I said. And it
You know
wasn't
what, though? For
a
someone who's
big
not a
deal.
podcast person, for you to have been on two podcasts now,
I get
that's
asked
pretty
to come on
cool.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. You know why? Because you have
It's
good
funny.
conversation. So that is a huge part of
It's kind of
podcasts.
funny.
But thank
And
you.
then, but everyone should listen to the Trying Times
Oh,
podcast
I did not pay her to say this. I just want to put that out there. Thank
by
you.
Carmen Kang.
Thank you so much. You couldn't even, to anyone listening, you couldn't see me when she was complimenting me, but I was like screeching
She's
and like
blushing.
digging my nails. Yeah, my face is red. I was like digging my nails into my face. I was like, no, please stop. No, but
But
I
it's true.
appreciate that.
No, you're really good at it. So you're making it work and you're trying a thing. See, you didn't let the fear. I mean, like starting something is always the hardest,
Yeah. No, I mean,
right?
honestly, like when I started this, I really wanted to have conversations with people, but I had to sit on it and think about the idea of how to incorporate guests onto this and
Hmm.
kind of like what capacity that would work at and how I would make that work. And it's something that I'm finally now 20 something episodes into the show starting to
That's a lot.
try.
You hit double
Yeah. And
digits.
like,
Congrats.
thank you. I mean, sometimes I'll be honest, there are moments where I'm like,
You should get a
ooh,
cake.
I should. That'd be cute.
I don't know if you have a favorite number. You should like get a cake for whatever your favorite number
3.
is. Oh, never mind.
3.
That's
But
past
I
ages
wouldn't
ago.
necessarily say it's like my favorite episode, to be honest, because and no shade to myself, but I feel like I'm only continuing to learn
Yeah,
the
you learn
more
as
that
you
I
go.
post and the more that I record and the more that I edit. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish when I started, like I could have sounded like the way it does now, or even close to what it was like
Just the
now.
production value is
But
getting higher and higher because
yeah,
you've learned so much.
yeah,
And that's the
exactly. And
same thing with
so,
photo and any creative
yes,
endeavor someone's doing. You
100%.
learn as you go. Like even my sister, she's a designer, like a
Yeah.
fashion designer, and just seeing her create, like for example, like clothes, whoever makes
Yes.
clothes, kudos to you because
Tough
an I
work. Like,
an
holy crap.
idea can change from one thing and then 2 weeks later it's a completely different garment. It just constantly changes. So
It's
that's what I
so
mean, where you're
crazy.
like, you just got to keep doing. The more you're doing, the more you're evolving, the more you're changing, the more you're growing. And I
Yeah.
don't think people should be scared of change because change is inevitable.
No, that's true. And I
And
think
that's on period.
that's and that's on period.
Because we
I
saw the
wish
City Girls.
the space. Oh my God. It's only fitting and on brand right now to include that. I do think obviously without those moments of looking back and being like, ooh, that's kind of embarrassing now. Like, why did this sound like this? Or why didn't I edit this
Embrace
better or
the
whatever?
cringe.
It's just embracing it because honestly, I mean, like if I look back at myself in my life, if I look back at like me, oh God, I don't even know, like 10 years ago when I was like in my little emo scene phase.
Embrace the
If I could have
cringe.
seen myself in the future at 26 and been like, what is she gonna say? What's she gonna look like? I wouldn't want to come to face with me because I would have been judging myself. So I agree with that completely. Embrace the cringe. That's the whole tagline for this episode. Embrace the
Yeah,
cringe.
embrace
I
the
love that.
cringe.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, going off of that, obviously you've had a lot of experience working with different people, you've worked in different mediums, you've worked on a lot of different kinds of projects, whether that's your own, whether that's supporting people. I kind of want to know from all of that, if you could choose one, what has been your favorite part of working in the photography industry so far? Whether that's like a moment, a project, anything, even an element of that.
Mm,
I know it's a very
you
loaded
know,
question.
for the listeners out there, Carmen gave me some points, like what the questions were going to be and what we're going to talk about today. And me being me, I didn't prepare for them. I was like, I'm just gonna wing it.
It's okay. It creates
I should have thought
conversation.
about this one. Oh man. I should have. I looked at them this morning. I was like, ah, okay. Like I forgot. I was like, what am I even gonna be asked today? Like, but
What is
anyways, I'll try
this?
my
Yeah,
best
go for
to
it.
I think the biggest highlight was this year. It was always a goal of mine to be printed in something. And I was printed in a local magazine here in Toronto called Arc Magazine. Shout out Marie.
Clapping.
And in the third issue, and it was for my own project. And because my project is going to be a book, it was very cool to see. Like, I haven't even sequenced the book yet. I'm still shooting. I'm still in the very beginning stages of even making a book.
Yeah,
But seeing a part of what could be printed was very fulfilling to me. Not
that's
like an
amazing.
online feature or anything. It was print like physically
Like you could hold,
like
yeah,
the
it was a
tangible
tangible
item.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
so
think that's pretty cool. And I want to strive for more printed things. Although it will be hard because I know print is sadly dying, but I hope our generation can change that. And I think a lot of things are coming back from like nostalgia kind of
yes.
vibes. So hopefully print is one of them. But that was very cool to me, and I'm thankful, even if it's like a small, like it's like a little local thing, but I'm still very thankful.
I was gonna say, first of all, I mean, I've already said this, but congratulations, because that's a
Thank you.
huge thing. And I mean, we've
It's
already
big for
talked
me,
about this.
yeah.
That's huge. I mean, like, that's obviously the fact that you can kind of see yourself moving forward with that. And this is only like a taste of what you're going to be
What
working
could
on and
be, yeah.
creating. Yeah, like that's such a
And like seeing my
fulfilling feeling.
parents hold it,
Yes,
and like my mom showing people and my dad showing people. Because like
100%.
when I was like younger and my parents always supported me no matter what I'm doing. I'm so thankful for that. They're always
That's
like,
so
yeah, you could
cool.
do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like when I was younger and like I would tell people like what I'm in school for, they'd be like, photography, what are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do
Oh,
with
the
this?
great
And it's, you know,
questions. Yeah.
but the dude who I assist for, shout out Justin. I think one time, this is like years ago, but I think it's always stuck with me that he was like, everybody needs pictures.
That's true.
It's like
Yeah.
a trade. So I always thought about it that way. Like everybody needs pictures. Everybody needs pictures for something.
Yep.
So there you go. So
That's
once I
so
learned
cool.
that from him, I always said that to other people. I'm
Hmm.
like, you're gonna need pictures for your wedding one day. You're gonna have to hire a wedding photographer. You're gonna
Yeah.
need somebody to take pictures of your newborn kid. You're gonna need like a really talented photographer who could deal with babies, because that's
Yeah.
another different world, you know? Or people love taking pictures of their pets. Like there's so many different things that you need a photographer for. So
Yeah.
for ads, for like little like everything we look at is a
Like there's
picture.
forever moments that will need capturing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool.
whenever, yeah, that was a question I hated when I was younger. And now I'm like,
What are you gonna do with
haha.
photography? And you're like, pretty much everything. What are you talking about?
And I'm like, haha, shut up. It's the same people my mom is showing my little printed
And
spot to.
that's literally always the way it goes too, is the people that will ask, like, what are you gonna do with this? Because I got that question a lot because I did media
Hmm.
communications in school. So I got that question a lot of like, what are you gonna do with that after school? And I'm like, get a job,
You could,
work,
exactly. What else
connect.
am I supposed to
The
do?
same thing that someone studying, I don't know, like optometry or law or whatever
Yeah,
would
it's the
do
same
is you're
thing.
gonna,
You go
yeah,
to
you're gonna
school and then
connect
you work.
and then work.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the end goal, I think, for everyone. So
But
yeah.
something like that, see, like this shit I learned, I'm just, it's the ego. It's my Leo.
No, but you have to keep that again, it plays off the imposter syndrome too, right? Like comes
Yeah.
back to that always. Like I think about this often where like people could say whatever they wanted and it could be so offensive and hurtful, but it's never going to be worse than what, for me at least, what I could think of myself, because
Exactly.
you have to constantly, I think, working in a creative field, push yourself and bring yourself up and boost yourself. And so
Mhm.
at the end of the
Because
day,
no one's
people
gonna
can
do it
ask
for
whatever.
you.
Yeah,
You're your biggest
exactly.
cheerleader.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, support
Embrace the
yourself.
cringe.
Exactly. Embrace the cringe. See, it helps. It helps. At some point or another, you're going to be like, why the hell was I doing that? And then you can be like, you know what?
I want to come back and listen to this and be like, Nika, why are you saying embrace the cringe? That's so
But,
embarrassing.
but
But
also embrace
embrace the cringe.
it. Exactly. There you
Embrace the
go.
cringe.
Oh my God. But you know what though? I mean, you could really apply it, like we said, to anything because that could be
It
life.
goes for anything.
It could be your own work. It
Hmm.
could be, I don't know.
Embrace the cringe.
We
Change
all
is
do things.
inevitable.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, fear is the mind killer. What else? Reborn by Kid
Dropping
Cudi.
so many gems in this episode. So thank you for that. I
Should be
love this.
interesting. I'm
Oh, it'll
actually
be
going to a
good.
photo talk tonight, so hopefully I learn some gems there.
Yeah. I mean, you're bringing gems, so I hope you get some in return. There you
Yes,
go.
it's only fair.
There you go. Okay, I have one final question where I pick your brain, and that'll wrap this up. What I want to ask you is if there's something that you would like to try in your career, whether that's directly in photography or to merge paths with something else. It could be literally anything.
Mm,
It's tough to pick because like you're very multi-talented. I think working as a creative
thank
also,
you.
everyone has like so many different buckets
I
that they
do
work on.
5,000 different things. It's
Yes.
crazy. The first thing that comes to mind is clothing because I've
Ooh.
always wanted to print like or make a photograph just strictly for a garment piece or something.
Oh, cool.
Like a
Okay.
series of images just for clothing or something. I think that's cool. And maybe
Okay.
because I've seen the process of how stuff is designed through my sister
Yeah.
is really cool. And I'm also very interested in fiber arts too. So maybe something with that. Yeah,
That's
I don't
so
know.
cool. Wait, tell me more about fiber arts.
Because I picked up like tufting during
Mm,
the pandemic and like crocheting. And
hmm.
now I'm like, I want to do knitting. So I don't know how I can make that. I mean, there's so many ways of making it artistic, but making it like art you can put on the wall.
That's so
Like
cool.
that's not like a weaving or something. I don't
Yeah,
know. There's ways of doing it. I just haven't really explored it, but that's maybe something I would want to tap into.
that's so cool. Well, I mean, literally later on, like if you
I
decide
don't.
to do another book, that could be featured in that book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Normally, I would have said like the book is a thing, but
oh,
I'm
of course.
doing the book,
Hmm.
so
So something
I
else
can.
totally different. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't say the book because it's in the process of being made.
that
So
is so exciting. Well, I cannot wait to see your book and
me
to
too.
hear about it and I mean, talk about it and share it and all the things because it'll be
I
great.
can't wait to see my book either.
Yeah, it'll happen when it happens.
It'll happen when it happens. I've been
Oh,
talking about it since like 2019. So,
you're
I mean,
just bringing it into fruition. That's
the
what it is.
world did stop
It
for
did.
like 2 years. So,
It's exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that on the show, talking about your book,
thank you for having
talking
me.
about future projects, all the things. Yeah, I
Wait,
loved this.
I gotta ask you a question.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
asking you the same question.
Okay.
What
Oh,
is
God.
something you would like to try in your career?
Oh, that's so tough.
Whether it like maybe not in film, because I feel like you've done a little bit of that, and maybe not with podcast stuff, because you've done a little bit of that. What's something you would want to try?
Yeah, it's kind of fun to think about sometimes because I think about
Because you
career
also wear
often.
different hats. Like
Yeah.
you're also very open to kind of doing whatever you want. So what's something you would
I
try?
like to always say I'm like open to opportunities where I don't ever know if I'm going to like something or if I'm going to hate something. Hate is a strong word, but you never know what you're going to like or dislike. So I think the best way to do that is just to kind of try and like learn through that because that's the best way to really get into something. I think funny enough because I think about career often, I have done podcasting through like a actual career setting like for work and then now I'm doing this as like a personal thing and then film I've done something kind of where I've helped friends out and I've done it in like a professional capacity now like again like a more of a work setting. So next, I mean, I would love to tackle something in the realm of maybe even like writing.
Oh,
uh
cool.
to what degree that is honestly couldn't tell you.
Oh yeah.
I'd be
You sort of
open to
I feel
yeah.
like you've wrote articles. That
Yes,
would be
that's
cool.
something that I
The
tackled
only
that
reason why
like
I
in
remember
university.
that is because I think you wrote an article during the pandemic and
Oh
I
my God, I
like
did.
yeah.
I love how I forgot
Yeah.
about that. Thank you for reminding me.
Because I saw it on my Instagram like stories, like when you like a year since whatever,
Oh my
or like you're just
God.
scrolling through
The
your
archive.
stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the archive. I like promoted it. I remember. So that's how I remember you
That's
doing that.
crazy.
But maybe
Thank you for
more
reminding me.
writing. Writing a book.
That would
You
be
should write a
so
book.
much fun. I'm
You
not
should
gonna
write a
lie.
book. Write like
I love it.
like a like a short story collection. Do that. Those are fun to
Yeah,
read.
that'd be
Those are
so
kind of the
much
only books I
fun.
read.
Really?
There you go. Sort of, yeah, because it was a really weird one. I still don't know how I feel about it, but I read this one by Miranda July. I think that's her name.
Okay.
I think that's her name. She's a director.
Oh, cool.
I like watched a movie of hers like for an assignment in school when we had to do like lecture courses, and I took one based on like sociology and like families and
Yeah.
children.
Cool. So again, multifaceted.
Her movie Kajillionaire, which I haven't seen yet, came out in 2020. But the movie that I'm
Oh,
talking about is Me and You and Everyone We Know. And then she has written a book, and the book was is called No One Belongs Here More Than You Stories. And I saw it at like a BMV, and I just picked it up because the cover is like yellow and with black writing, and it looked very nice. So I picked it up.
that's
But
cool.
that also has very interesting, and I still don't know how I feel about it, stories, but it was cool.
No, I love that. I
Touchy
mean,
subjects, but it was cool.
that's such a cool format to read because I feel like it allows you to tap into so many different characters and stories
Mhm.
and themes in one go. So I've
So
not read enough of those.
you
But
should write a short story collection.
and in part, I mean, like I've always loved writing, but in part, I just finished reading a book called The American Roommate Experience. What? Hold on. The American Roommate Experiment. I forgot what I was saying for a sec. I like blacked out. Um, and in that
What's
story,
that
it's
about?
it's kind of a sequel to this book called The Spanish Love Deception. So that was
Okay.
that author, Elena Armas, I believe is her name. That was her very first book. It went like
Hmm.
TikTok famous. It's everywhere.
It's
It
on
was a
Book Talk.
very, yes, book talk. It was all over every book talk table of every bookstore I went into. And it was such a cute read. Like it was just very like lovey-dovey. I loved it. And then she released a new book this year, actually last month, called The American Roommate Experiment. And the main character of that story was actually the best friend of the main character from The Spanish Love Deception.
Oh,
And
cool.
her whole character focused on, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, so I'm not going to say a lot, but she is a writer. And so she writes romance books. And like, I don't know, just reading that was so cool. And it was
You got
interesting.
inspired.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to pull inspiration from her because she worked as like, as some sort of like an engineer in like financial tech type work, from my understanding, if I'm remembering that right. So I finished reading that, and now I'm reading Jeanette McCurdy's
Oh,
memoir, I
tell
believe
me
it
how
is.
that goes. Yeah, I want to read
It's
that.
I'm like 100 pages in right now, and honestly, it's written in such a cool way. So obviously she sums up a lot of very dark things in a
Hmm.
very almost bright kind of way. There's no like leaving anything out, which I really love. Like she's very direct and to the point, but for some reason it doesn't feel super depressing while you're reading it. Like it just feels like you're talking to someone. So I think between the both of those things, totally different themes, I've just been very inspired by different styles of writing and communication and storytelling. So that's definitely something I would consider doing, whether it be
Write
a
a
book or an
book.
article. But yeah, that'd be
Write
cool.
a book. Write a
You
short
heard
story
it here
collection.
first.
Carmen's gonna write a short story collection with
No, but
different
that'd be fun.
characters.
That'd be cool though.
I think you
Yeah.
should just try writing. There's just a little short story.
Yeah, just
Tap
for
into that. It could be a
fun.
hobby. It doesn't have to be something that you monetize, but
No, absolutely.
just
It'd be fun to
just
practice that.
yeah, just write a little short story.
Thank you for asking me that question back. I appreciate that. And thank you again for being on this episode.
Again,
Um,
thank you for having me. And
of
it's only
course.
fair to ask the person who's asking me questions.
I love that. I appreciate that so much. I have one last request. Do
Hmm.
you want to plug your social media here? I will be putting it in the description of this episode so you can click on that. But would you like to share that?
You want me to say it? Oh,
You go
geez.
ahead.
You can find me on Instagram at Nika T Thompson, Nikat, and then Thompson. Or you can check out my website, nikathompson.com. Yeah,
You heard it here.
and
Thank
that's my
you.
info. Thank you.
You did so
And
good.
Carmen, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at I'm Carmen Kang. Or you can follow the show on Instagram at the Trying Times Podcast.
Yeah.
She was saying it along with me. She was mouthing it. Thank you so much again. This is so much fun.
Thank you for having me, friend.
If you're still here, then thank you for listening to this conversation, and a big thank you to Nika for joining me on this show. It was so much fun to have her on and just get to share our special conversation with you guys. And this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. I've wanted to have guests on for a while, so it's cool that I got to do this now and have her on as my first guest. So, I mean, if you're interested in more guests, let me know. Go over to Instagram and share that and express that, and stay tuned for new episodes. We might have more guests on, wink, wink. But yeah, if you guys want to talk about this episode or keep up with the show generally, because all of the updates are over in one spot, then go ahead and check out our Instagram, the Trying Times Podcast, and give that a follow if you want to keep up with the show. And last but not least, I cannot forget, if you're interested in Nika and her work and you want to learn more about that, please check out her socials and her website. All of that will be linked in the episode description as well. And thanks so much for listening. We'll chat again soon, okay? Bye.